All righty, welcome October and welcome back to another edition of PA High School Football Report podcast. We are locked in the belly of the beast, PennLive HQ. They rarely let us out of this cage except to go cover football, which is a great thing for us. We're here to fire off another 30-plus minutes of banter about the Mid-Penn Conference, of course, and maybe a little bit beyond too. Eric Epler of PennLive alongside now longtime colleague. Dan Sostek. All right, Dan, weekend happenings. I always have to ask, what'd you do over the weekend?
Had a wedding to go to down in my hometown. So
that time in your life, right?
Yeah, everyone except me.
30-ish,
yeah,
right?
And the fun part was the wedding party was where I had my bar mitzvah party, and both my brothers did. So
interesting.
It was kind of weird to kind of not see all these like 13-year-olds playing like Duck Duck Goose or whatever on the dance floor, right. and everyone just drinking adult beverages.
Yes,
and
frosty,
eating steaks, and it was nice. It was a nice weekend to see my old like youth friends. So
yes,
get married. So nice weekend, and. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Just drove back up from Philly on Saturday or Sunday, and now ready to kick off next week of football.
I didn't do much. I just watched my fantasy football team tank.
Everyone's hurt
for the second straight week. Puka's back, no. He's hurt.
Yeah.
I've got a bunch of IR running backs in the stable. So
I think everyone's.
I had to pick up Chuba Hubbard.
He was good this week, though.
He was good this week, but it's week 4, and you have to pick up Chuba Hubbard. Things are going south. Dude.
I drafted Chuba in all of my leagues. So
yeah, well, we have a lot of free agents.
Yeah.
We don't pick many guys and leave them on the roster. So he was available, but. I lost to some team called Raymond's Reliable Football Club. I don't even know who that guy is. He's in the league with me. I don't even know who he is.
He's some artificial intelligence team.
Yeah, he could be. He could be a bot.
Yeah.
But that bot scored some points, I'll tell you that right. All right, Dan, we're rolling out a little hodgepodge of topics kind of this week. But first, I have a stone to pick. Did you see what I did there?
That's really clever. That's why you're.
Did you see what I did there?
That's why you're the senior writer.
Man, it took me like 45 minutes to come back. I got a stone to pick. Listen, of course we're joking here, but this part's true. Stone Saunders, weeks before he just became Pennsylvania's career passing touchdown leader. Mm-hmm. It happened Friday night on, I believe it was the second play from scrimmage. Mm-hmm. He threw TD pass number 177, and he was really downgrading it. He was tired of talking about it. He was tired of seeing me and Evan Wheaton for the last couple of weeks writing stories about it.
I think that was mostly it. I think he just doesn't like you.
It could be. And he was downplaying it and this and that. And then when it happened, listen, I've never seen fireworks at Rocco.
Yeah.
There were fireworks. There were balloons. I think there were a lot of stone sours being consumed in the parking lot. If I know the crowd at Bishop McDevitt, that's the truth. I mean, there might have been a petting zoo in the corner for the kids. I mean, there was a whole big stoppage and celebration for this thing. He's smiling ear to ear the whole time. Like, what do you mean it's not a big deal?
I think it's you gotta say that, right? Because you got, if you're the quarterback, you can't make it about yourself, right? That was like.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. Yeah. This was like off the record. Oh man, it's not that big, but come on, man. Of course, it's a big deal.
Yeah. Well, I think you gotta tell everyone that, and then deep down you're like, I know, and to be clear, that's how you should be excited for that. I mean, we talked about it last year with Alex Irby. It's like you list every single quarterback that's ever played high school football in the state of Pennsylvania, and it's literally like 5 of the 20 greatest quarterbacks to ever play professional football.
Yes.
Yeah, Joe Namath, Johnny Unitas,
Marino.
Dan Marino, Jim Kelly. It's Joe Montana.
Montana, right?
It's literally like some of the greatest players to ever play the sport. So you should be grinning ear to ear, and you shouldn't be telling us, I don't care about it.
But it was like you remember, he had Kushlash. Like, remember Jerry O'Donnell
O'Connell
and Jerry Maguire before he dissed Maguire and went with Bob Sugar.
Oh, yeah. But,
you know, I mean, Kushlash. You know, they're talking about me too much.
You know how 18-year-olds are. You gotta be too cool for everything.
We're just joshing.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's really just because I always tell people. I've been telling people this year, like when anyone asks how long you've been at PennLive, I remember it's 4 years because my first game I covered PennLive was Stone Saunders' first career start,
right.
And so now he's a senior, so I know it's 4 years, and I still remember seeing that first pass that he threw, and it was a beautiful 30-yard out. They only scored 3 points that game. It was a really good LaSalle team.
LaSalle College, yep.
That was a really good LaSalle team that year.
21-0, I believe, right?
Yeah, it was they were moving the ball. It was a tough first career start for Stone Saunders. So it is kind of funny to think his first career game he didn't even throw a touchdown pass, and
right,
and now he's all-time leading touchdown tosser. So I don't think we take it for granted that we've had 2 straight years of those records being broken to cover. So pretty cool for the Mid-Penn. It's
been really, really cool, and you go ahead and you celebrate, big guy.
Yep.
Yeah. Balloons and fireworks and all that stuff. Anyway, all right. I can't recall. Speaking of last week, by the way, McDevitt won 28-21 over Altoona, which was a big surprise.
Yeah.
That it was that close. Altoona, of course, has a nice rushing attack, but they've been like 3 or 4 guys short.
They've been looking for a guy. They had a different, some other people emerge in that game, and I do wonder if kind of scoring that early kind of just affected the psyche a little bit of McDevitt, that it almost felt like the game was over a little.
Maybe
like when you have that big pause to celebrate everything, that kind of takes a little of the intensity out, and probably honestly grinds Altoona's gears a little bit, right? That they're sitting there watching all this celebration.
It should have, it should have.
So I imagine it's kind of a weird situation to be in for both teams. So you can maybe that contribute, but credit to Altoona for making
absolutely.
I think handing all of us an L in our picks.
Absolutely, and that was just a small fraction of. I can't recall a more unpredictable sort of set of results, and I don't mean to overshadow the teams that a team like Chambersburg came out with a big win. Newport came out with a big win. Mm-hmm. Altoona obviously with a great performance against McDevitt, lots and lots of rushing yards in that. But I'm talking about like what we thought would happen and how it would happen. Way off.
Oh yeah,
like way off from 6 to 7 games. Out of which is now 19 and a full set for Mid-Penn Conference.
Yeah, I'll tell you one thing.
In a week,
the game I was at, I did not expect a 315-yard rushing performance against Cumberland Valley's defense. Which, if I told you before the year that a CD East running back was going to break Chase Edmonds' program single game record for rushing, and it wasn't going to be Jared Porter, you'd have told me to get the heck out of it.
Yes.
Just build it. Like
I would have had to let you go.
Yeah.
I would have had to let you go.
Yeah. And I would have told you it's actually their star cornerback that transferred from Bishop McDevitt is actually going to run for 315 yards, and it's not going to be in one of those early season games where you're not playing. It is against Cumberland Valley, a team with a good defense. I think you would have called me crazy. It's just that was the week that was, and then that game was still going to be super close too. So
yep. Absolutely, yeah. It was a 6-point win for CD East, and obviously to get to 6-0,
Yeah.
Very impressive on their part. Shippensburg moved to 6-0 with just a barn burner overtime game with Lower Dolphin. I applaud Lower Dolphin so much for going for the 2-point conversion in overtime.
You got it.
Absolutely right call. It just didn't happen. 24-23.
We're about process, not results.
Exactly,
here, right?
Absolutely. Middletown with another inspired effort just came up short against Susquehanna Township, 21-14. For the Tribe, and of course, Lex Cyrus, the South Carolina recruit, with a big touchdown there to kind of separate those two squads. We had another barn burner at Steel High against Line Mountain. We thought that game would be a good one. It was an absolute pinball game, 43-40. The Rollers come out ahead, and of course, Newport gets their first W. Zach Bates has been a guy who's really been. I guess he's flown under the radar just because Newport's struggling mightily, but 3 touchdowns, all 3 touchdowns for his squad in that game against Milton Hershey, 20-18 victory. Congratulations to Todd Rothermel and the Buffaloes. Great effort. And we mentioned Chambersburg earlier with a big win over Cedar Cliff. That game was surprisingly a wide margin.
Yeah, and you looked at I saw there were some weird things on that box score because obviously we weren't down there.
Right.
There was a 10-yard punt return touchdown, which
There was.
I don't know if that means there was a blocked punt or something, but I feel like when there's a blocked punt, it says blocked punt. It doesn't say 10-yard punt return touchdown. But Keegan Truitt had a real nice day. It looked like, and they actually have I know Antonio Harrison, their running backs, one of the better sprinters in the Mid-Penn when it comes to track and field season. So they have I've said about Chambersburg a lot because I used to work down there, is that they have the athletes down there. We know it because they've literally won the boys track and field team title, which means that they have depth of athletes in that area. It's all about, they're kind of looking for that consistency up front, right? That consistency on the line in the trenches to kind of allow those athletes to do what they can do. And it's good to see that kind of come to fruition a little bit against Cedar Cliff, which is a good team. And I don't know if, again, when you kind of cover these games from afar, you don't know about injuries and stuff. I saw PJ Dent only had 2 carries, which could have a big impact on that game as well. But you got to give credit to Chambers where you play who you're going against, and that's a big win for them. Who they've played these teams tougher than their record indicates. They really gave McDevitt a tough game through half before McDevitt got going against Harrisburg. It really wasn't their defense that was having issues. They just turned the ball over a couple times. It's just how Harrisburg kind of avoids those letdown games, right? It's that their defense kind of forces those turnovers that kind of stifles any sort of momentum on the other team. But good job by Mark Luther getting a win there against a good Cedar Cliff team.
Yeah, it's a good Cedar Cliff squad. It really is, and that's the thing too. When you talk about big schools too, and it's always tough to kind of see not having that depth. Not having the depth, especially in the interior. These big schools. You figure you got 60, 65 guys on the roster. You should be able to get 7 to 8 linemen that you can sort of mix in and kind of save some legs for the second half. Chambers really hasn't had that part. They've had good skill guys, but trying to find those interior guys and kind of get them a little bit of spell, they really haven't had that in a couple of years too. But they're one of those teams that make you play a little bit outside your comfort zone, and they always play very, very physical. It's always a physical test with Chambersburg. It really is, and that's a credit to Coach Luther, of course. So that was a little bit of the zaniness. And again, congrats on a wild week. I texted the guys. When was it, Saturday? And I said it's so much fun when everything just goes crazy.
Yeah, we're looking at our picks and everyone's like sub 500.
Like this is awesome.
We didn't even mention East Pennsboro putting the wood chipper to West Perry a little bit.
Yeah. Well, we're going to talk about both of those squads coming up here now. So we took a look. Obviously, we've got only 4 weeks left in the regular season. So obviously, this is a time when teams are starting to line up, not only for division titles, but obviously for postseason bids and the District 3 playoffs. So we wanted to look at, particularly this week, at games I think are very, very important to answering a lot of those questions for teams. More so districts than division titles. I'm always looking at the district level.
Yeah.
I think division titles are great. They're nice and all that. You get the banner, you put it up. I get it.
Yeah.
But to me, it's about finding the right spot inside the District 3 playoffs, because there's a lot of teams out there who have been a lot more consistent through 6 weeks than a lot of the teams in the Mid-Penn, most of the teams in the Mid-Penn.
Yeah, it's been a weird Mid-Penn.
I mean, I think really, honestly, if you're looking at a team that's probably, and it's not just wins and losses, but a team that's been consistently, done what they do, it's probably been CD East.
Yeah.
Or it's probably been State College, because they had a chance to win that Harrisburg game. Probably should have won it, but Elias Koch with a blocked field goal in the final seconds, and that did the trick. But so CD East has really been the one that's kind of at least played their game.
Well, you can say Harrisburg too after week 1.
Harrisburg has, yeah, but they were taken out of for whatever reason. Obviously, Gavin was a big reason in week one, the Explorers QB. But it's also like, they've had to adjust.
Yeah,
and they
true.
could very easily have tooth. So anyway, so along those lines, what teams are kind of fighting to kind of get in? And basically, I think the surge to the playoffs really starts this week. And I think there's some teams and some games where the teams that really have the margin for error right now is very, very thin. And it's not often we say that with a month left to go.
Yeah, it's really...
with a month left to go. So, Dan, what do you see as really the games that matter? And let's just talk this week, because obviously there's a couple down the road. I know there's some couple big week 8. But now going into week 7, what are some of the games that you think are really really important this week in the NPC?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously West Perry's kind of hit a little bit of a tough spell here, right? And they've lost 2 straight games. The Middletown loss, the East Pennsboro loss. With a game against Trinity coming in 2 weeks, you really got to get right, I think, this week against Big Spring. And, because right now they're sitting at number 10 in 4A. What is it? Is it 10 teams making it?
10 in 4A, yeah.
Yeah, so they are right on the edge. They really, I think their saving grace is the teams behind them are, there's only 2 3-3 teams behind them. Mm-hmm. One's Middletown, who has a win over them.
Right.
So I just think that you really can only afford one more loss of your West Perry here. Maybe two gets you in because there's not that much behind you, but you can't be dropping the Big Spring game with a Trinity game still to go. And they're on the road too. Big Spring's a team that, they don't have the wins. They're 2-4 this year, right? But they have that weapon that can make any game difficult in Grant Hall.
Grant Hall, yep.
And, that'll be one of the better running back matchups to get of the week is Grant Hall versus Brad Hockenberry. But, yeah, West Perry's really got to get right this week.
Yeah, this is a huge game. That's the first one I have on my list. It's a huge game for both sides. And when you look at Big Spring, too, Susquehanna Township this week, Middletown, East Pennsboro. All 3 of those games are hammers for them. All are hot right now, for sure. And as for some, no matter what Big Spring does, they have to find a path to 5-5.
Yeah.
Because the good news is now their strength of schedule is going to get bumped up. Over the next 3 weeks, it's going to rise up. That's going to help them. But if they can somehow, they're 2-4 right now, if they could somehow get to 5-5, that'll guarantee them a spot.
Yeah.
Because of that SOS. But, there's an outside chance you can get a 4-6 team in 4A. It's more likely in 5A, 4A, not quite, but there is an outside chance that they can do it. But, from where they started to now, to have that shot, I think is speaks volume for a little bit at what Hall's doing and obviously what the rest of the Bulldogs are doing. So this will be a big game. This is a big game on that one. The one I put down to, I think Middletown, somehow 3-3 now.
Yep.
3-3 Middletown.
5-5. Or 3-3.
They're 3-3 right now.
Yeah, 3-3.
If they can get to 5-5, I think they'll fall inside the 4A cut line for much of the same reasons as Big Spring. Strength of schedule should be elevated over the last 4 weeks of the season for them. Next 2 weeks is Line Mountain. That's a 4-2 team. Then East Pennsboro. It's a 4-2 team. They've got to split those. They've got to at least split those 2 games. And I think it would be one of the better stories if Middletown would get into the playoffs. Again, it's not an easy road over the last 4 weeks, but they've played pretty much everyone over the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, that division has ended up being a pretty tough one. Yeah,
really tough. And so if you can hang around and obviously take a high-powered offensive team like Susquehanna Township to the brink, and obviously you beat a very physical, between the tackles running attack like West Perry, you won that game. So you're proving that you can win a bunch of different styles of football games. So as long as they stay healthy, make a few plays, they have a decent shot. They do have a decent shot in 4A to make it in.
Yep.
Anyone else you're looking at, Dan?
I'm looking at the 6A bracket just because you look at kind of where Waynesboro is, right? At 4-2.
That's the question mark there, I think, in 6A.
Yeah, because Cumberland Valley's at 10. They're 3-3. Their strength of schedule is going to be obviously incredible, but that's kind of the issue, right? Is that they've still got 2 of their toughest games of the year left. And they're back to back, right? And I think that if Como Valley splits, if somehow managed to split McDevitt Harrisburg, I think they would be in a pretty good spot, right? But that's because they could finish the year then with Chambersburg and Cedar Cliff, win those 2 games, and the year 6-4. I think that might get them in, right? Because one of those wins over either McDevitt or Harrisburg would be a huge boost. But I think it's a big ask, right, for them to split those games.
I think it's a big ask, but I also think too now with 12 teams in 6A, correct?
Oh yeah. Is it 12 teams?
I believe 12 making 6A. So if you get to 5-5, you're going to be in, especially with CV's strength of schedule.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's one. And obviously, I'm not suggesting they try to settle for the last seed or 2, but this is a football team. If they get hot, and would split that, I mean, it's unlikely they would win both of those games.
Yeah.
But if they would happen to split that and get to 6-4,
it's still 10.
Is it still 10?
Yeah, it's still 10 teams.
It's still 10.
So
5-5 will get them in.
Yeah.
But again, they've got to get there.
Yeah, but Waynesboro's the one that I think kind of needs to keep winning because their strength of schedule is not going to match up as the season goes, right?
And their biggest nemesis in this chase is probably Governor Mifflin.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's Governor Mifflin, and I mean they've got to keep pace with Governor Mifflin. I don't think York High is going to make that run. I believe they forfeited their game this past week.
They did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's the issue, right? Is that if Waynesboro drops a game that they shouldn't drop, that's going to be pretty calamitous, I think, to that. And as we saw, I mean, Northern York's a solid football team, but that stuff's going to really hurt them if they drop another one. Like if they have Mechanicsburg, which is they're easily their toughest game left on the schedule. They also have Hershey. And, I mean, Lower Dauphin, as we saw this past week, they can play up to some really good competition. They almost beat Shippensburg. And Mifflin County's no pushover either. Mifflin County took Northern York to overtime, and Northern York beat Waynesboro. So, big 4 weeks for Mark Saunders' squad.
You mentioned the Falcons of Lower Dauphin at 2-4 right now. They're hardly done.
Yeah.
They're hardly done. They could sweep the remaining 4 games.
Yeah.
The way they played against Shippensburg proves it. They've got Palmyra, Mifflin County, Waynesboro, and then Gettysburg. I think all 4 of those games are winnable games for them. I'm not saying they'll win them all, but obviously that would put them at 6-4 and in really good position to make the postseason. The only other team I looked at really was Northern York.
Yeah.
Right now, 13 in 5A. When they take 12, they're 3-3. The Polar Bears are.
I would shout out to Anna Lehman, right? Kicking the game-winning kick.
Congratulate, absolutely.
As she is anchoring an undefeated girls soccer team for Northern.
Exactly.
When you talk about best athletes in
it's ridiculous.
She's
ridiculous.
She's a 4-letter varsity athlete who's not just like she's not just showing up to these teams, right? She's literally
she's making states.
Probably the best player on 2 of those teams.
Yep.
The kicker on a team making these game-winning kicks, and then also winning mid-pen championships on track and field. One of the best. Just a quick shout out to Anna Lehman for the work she's done, giving up her Friday nights to kick for the Polar Bears.
I'll bet you she does like something outdoors too, like just run 10 miles for fun.
Yeah, or she's also bowling 300 games.
Right, and probably averages like 4.5 a mile. You know what I mean? Just some crazy. I mean, she's been ridiculous. She's been unbelievable for the past 3 years, and congrats on the game-winning kick in that one. That was pretty awesome. But here you are, Northern. You've got 6-0, 5-1, and 6-0. To end over the next 3 weeks.
That means Gabe Johnson, get your ice bath.
Get the ice bath ready for Gabe Johnson. He may have 120 carries over the next 3 weeks. That would probably be a good sign.
Yeah.
If he did have it would probably be a good sign that Northern.
Grady Bonen's been pretty solid for them.
He has been. Yeah. There's been a bunch of guys who've contributed to this, and again, I probably would not have predicted a 3-3 for Northern at this point.
I don't even know if Bill Miller would have.
Probably not.
I think he kind of thought this might be, it was a wait and see to see
Yes.
because when you lose a guy like Cole Bartram, you do have to kind of wait and see.
Cole Bartram was just an
Yeah.
absolute beast. But when that SOS goes up, obviously that's a good thing for Northern. So again, 3-3 now, 5-5. They're going to sneak in. They're going to get into 5A postseason. So good luck for them. All right. Any other guys checking out? We talked a little about 6A. I think 5A is pretty fluid at this point. 4A not so much. And obviously we're a little thin in the.
You look at some of these brackets. It's like West York at 6-0 is like. There's some of these teams at the top that you're really like not used to kind of seeing at the.
Well, it's tough because obviously I do the state rankings, and there's a couple teams too that like I've really like sort of dug into, but I haven't really found a spot because some of these teams. It's either feast or famine. Like this week in Class 5A, the top 3 teams lost.
Yeah.
Now they all lost to Hammers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Now Romans lost to Bonner. Prendergast was a surprise, especially the score the way it was. But Ruston lost to Downingtown West. D West is ranked in 6A, and then obviously had one other loss I can't think of right now. But that's been really a tough thing. 4A has been pretty steady. But, like teams like Conrad Weiser, it's tough to break that in. They're 6-0. West York, I do have as a team to watch. I think they're ready to break in. They just beat Eastern York. It was a tight game, but Eastern York was 5-0 going into last week. So, there's a lot of these teams in our district that are pretty darn good.
Yeah.
And I just at this point, there's just not a hole for them. Right now. But that could change. I mean, we've had some volatile weeks.
Yep, and also the other thing that just to keep an eye out for with Harrisburg is they're playing to stay into that buy range, right, where you don't have to play that opening game.
Yeah, that's important. Yeah,
I mean they're at 4 right now, and they've got. I think they are going to be favored in at least 3 of these games. The CD East game to end the year is going to be a heck of a fun game.
Yeah,
I think that. I guess if Harrisburg wins these next 3 games, they probably won't be in danger of falling that 6 or 7 spot. But I'm awful at the math. It's hard to tell. And no matter what you say, like when you're Harrisburg, you think you're going to win every single game, right? But you never want to have to play an extra football game if you don't have to. You never want to.
No, especially not that time of year too, when weather starts becoming a factor, and obviously it was a factor this weekend. More so down south end of District 3 than up here, but. It was still soggy and bare, but once you hit November, it gets a little dicey. So if you could take a week off and rest, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing to have.
And Trinity's playing for that 1 seed in 3A. They're right behind Bermudian Springs, Camp Hill, and how about Steel High? We all wrote them off. They're right back at the number 1 seed in 2A.
I said last week, I'm like, that team. They had a setback last week, and I'm like, you know what? That team's gonna be fine. They're fine in 1 or 2A.
Yeah.
They're dangerous enough, and the biggest thing for them is to stay healthy.
Yeah, and Camp Hill staying afloat despite Drew Brands. I mean, talk about finding a way to win. They found
that was another one of the crazy things because and I got a chance to see Halifax, and I even said, and the guy asked me, it was just a fan, and he's like, well, and Upper Dauphin was beating them pretty good, but I'm like, you know what? This team's trying, man. They've got a few guys, and it's just obviously they're short a few players.
Carroll's pretty good,
but you know what? And they only lose 7-0 to Camp Hill.
Yeah, I think that kind of I think we all know it, but it's nothing against Colby Luther who put in a tough situation, but I think we all know how valuable Drew Branson is to that team. And I talked to Tim Bigelow about it a little after their game against Juniata, and the reason he's so valuable is because we all know their line's not the biggest line in the world, right? His ability to roll out and kind of nullify that line, kind of any line issue, because he can just get out of the pocket where all the pressure's not coming and still be able to throw from those off-platform off-platform spots is just so big for that offense, and it's kind of what makes it go. I think he's their leading rusher still. Like, they need him back. It was an ankle injury, so I don't think it will be a long absence. But, you in the 7 teams in 2A, you're going to need him there for the playoffs.
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah.
And it's the leadership he brings, and it's the confidence that he instills in everyone around him too.
Yeah.
That's why the quarterbacks,
That's why they get paid the big bucks.
That's right. That's why they get paid the big bucks.
That's why he gets the.
You take the praise when you win, and you take the the criticism when you lose.
I don't know what the big bucks are in Camp Hill football.
I don't know.
Maybe some free. Maybe some
over there could be. I
some
don't know.
Free donuts.
The Jersey Mike's coupon. I don't know. I don't know what they give out over there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been interesting. But first 6 weeks of the season in the books. It's been a wild ride so far. We've seen a lot of great efforts. Obviously, a few milestones between Leon Parson and Stone Saunders in the same week. That's pretty impressive and fun to write about. And we got one more month to go until we hit the district postseason. So that'll do it for this edition of the PA High School Football Report. Get out there and watch a game. If the weather's good, even if the weather's bad, take the umbrella, get out there and watch some football. And we'll see you guys next week.